Number 1. Low self-esteem. A wounded inner child often manifests as low self-esteem, which can affect every aspect of your life. This stems from childhood experiences where your worth was not affirmed, or where you were criticized, ignored, or compared to others. If you grew up in an environment where love and approval were conditional, based on your achievements, behavior, or appearance, you may have internalized the belief that you are inherently not good enough. Signs of low self-esteem: constant self-doubt and second-guessing yourself. Negative self-talk, such as, "I'm a failure," or "I can't do anything right." Difficulty accepting compliments or believing in your abilities. Comparing yourself to others and feeling inferior. How it affects you. Low self-esteem can lead to a reluctance to take risks or pursue opportunities because you fear failure or rejection. It can also make you overly dependent on external validation, such as praise from others, to feel good about yourself. This creates a cycle where your sense of worth is tied to others' opinions rather than your intrinsic value. To heal this wound, it's essential to reparent your inner child by affirming your worth and challenging negative self-beliefs. Practices like positive affirmations, journaling about your strengths, and seeking therapy can help rebuild self-esteem. Remind yourself that you are deserving of love and respect simply for being who you are. Number 2. Fear of abandonment. Fear of abandonment is a common sign that your inner child is hurting. This fear often originates from experiences of neglect, loss, or inconsistent caregiving during childhood. If a parent or caregiver was emotionally unavailable, left suddenly, or failed to meet your needs consistently, you may have internalized the belief that people you love will eventually leave you. Signs of fear of abandonment: clinging to relationships, even unhealthy ones. Feeling anxious when someone doesn't respond quickly or seems distant. Avoiding emotional intimacy because you're afraid of getting hurt. Overanalyzing interactions for signs that someone might leave. How it affects you. This fear can lead to codependency in relationships, where you prioritize others' needs over your own to avoid conflict or rejection. Alternatively, it might cause you to push people away preemptively to protect yourself from potential abandonment. Healing involves recognizing that the fear is rooted in past experiences rather than present reality. Practice self-soothing techniques and remind yourself that you are capable of handling difficult emotions. Therapy can help uncover the origins of this fear and teach you how to build secure attachments. Number 3. Difficulty setting boundaries. If your inner child is hurting, you might struggle with setting healthy boundaries. This often stems from growing up in an environment where your needs were dismissed or where asserting yourself led to punishment or rejection. As a result, you may have learned that it's safer to prioritize others' needs over your own. Signs of boundary issues: saying yes when you want to say no, feeling guilty for asserting yourself, allowing others to take advantage of your kindness, avoiding conflict at all costs. How it affects you. Poor boundaries can lead to resentment and burnout because you're constantly putting others' needs ahead of your own. Over time, this erodes your sense of self-worth and leaves you feeling powerless in relationships. Start by identifying situations where you feel uncomfortable or taken advantage of. Practice saying no in small, low-stakes situations to build confidence. Remind yourself that setting boundaries is an act of self-respect and that it's okay to prioritize your well-being. Number 4. Self-sabotaging behaviors. Self-sabotage is a common way a wounded inner child expresses unresolved pain. This behavior often stems from feelings of unworthiness or fear of failure instilled during childhood. If you were criticized for making mistakes or felt pressure to be perfect, you might subconsciously undermine your own success to avoid disappointment. Signs of self-sabotage: procrastinating on important tasks, setting unrealistic goals and then giving up, engaging in destructive habits like overeating or overspending, avoiding opportunities for growth due to fear of failure. How it affects you. Self-sabotage prevents you from reaching your full potential and creates a cycle of frustration and regret. It reinforces negative beliefs about yourself, making it harder to break free from the pattern. To heal this wound, start by identifying the underlying fears driving your behavior. Practice self-compassion and remind yourself that mistakes are a natural part of growth. Therapy or coaching can provide tools to overcome self-sabotaging tendencies. Number 5. Emotional dysregulation. If your inner child is hurting, you may struggle with managing emotions effectively. This often stems from growing up in an environment where emotions were dismissed, punished, or ignored. As a result, you may have learned to suppress your feelings or react impulsively when overwhelmed. Signs of emotional dysregulation: overreacting to minor triggers, suppressing emotions until they explode, feeling ashamed for expressing vulnerability, struggling to identify or articulate how you feel. How it affects you. Emotional dysregulation can strain relationships and make it difficult to navigate challenges effectively. It may also lead to feelings of shame or guilt for not being able to control your emotions. Start by practicing mindfulness techniques like deep breathing or meditation to stay grounded during emotional triggers. Journaling can help you process feelings in a healthy way. Therapy can also provide tools for regulating emotions and understanding their roots. Number 6. Trust issues. A wounded inner child often struggles with trust due to past experiences of betrayal or inconsistency from caregivers. If people who were supposed to protect and nurture you let you down, it can be difficult to believe that others will act differently. Signs of trust issues: being overly suspicious of others' intentions, avoiding vulnerability out of fear of being hurt, testing people's loyalty repeatedly, trusting too easily in an attempt to fill emotional voids. How it affects you. Trust issues can prevent you from forming deep connections with others and may lead to loneliness or isolation. Alternatively, misplaced trust can leave you vulnerable to manipulation or harm. Healing involves recognizing that not everyone will repeat past patterns of betrayal. Practice building trust gradually in relationships by taking small risks and observing how others respond. Certainly. Let's continue with the remaining points, elaborating on each in detail. Number 7. Relationship struggles. When your inner child is wounded, it often manifests in difficulties forming and maintaining healthy relationships. This is because your early experiences with caregivers shape your attachment style and influence how you relate to others. If you experienced emotional neglect, abuse, or inconsistent caregiving, you may develop unhealthy patterns in relationships as an adult. Signs of relationship struggles: staying in toxic or abusive relationships because they feel familiar, avoiding intimacy or emotional vulnerability out of fear of being hurt, feeling overly dependent on your partner for validation and self-worth, sabotaging relationships by pushing people away when they get too close. How it affects you. These struggles can leave you feeling lonely, unfulfilled, or trapped in a cycle of unhealthy connections. You may find yourself repeating patterns from childhood, such as seeking approval from emotionally unavailable partners or recreating dynamics where you feel unworthy of love. Healing your inner child. To heal, it's important to recognize how your childhood experiences influence your current relationship patterns. Therapy, especially modalities like attachment-based therapy, can help you identify and break these cycles. Learning to set boundaries, communicate openly, and prioritize self-love will also help you form healthier relationships. Number 8. Addictive behaviors. Addictive behaviors often serve as coping mechanisms for unresolved inner child wounds. These behaviors may include substance abuse, overeating, excessive shopping, compulsive gaming, or even workaholism. They are often attempts to numb emotional pain or fill a void created by unmet needs during childhood. Signs of addictive behaviors: using substances or activities to escape feelings of sadness, anger, or loneliness. Feeling out of control when engaging in certain behaviors, e.g., binge eating or drinking. Experiencing guilt or shame after indulging in addictive habits. Relying on distractions to avoid confronting deeper emotional wounds. How it affects you. Addictive behaviors provide temporary relief, but ultimately perpetuate feelings of emptiness and self-loathing. They can harm your physical health, mental well-being, and relationships over time. Healing involves addressing the root cause of the addiction rather than just the behavior itself. This might include exploring childhood experiences that led to feelings of inadequacy or emotional pain. Practices like mindfulness, therapy, e.g., cognitive behavioral therapy or trauma-focused therapy, and support groups can help you develop healthier coping mechanisms. Number 9. Perfectionism and overachievement. Perfectionism is a common defense mechanism for a wounded inner child. If you grew up feeling that love and approval were conditional, based on your achievements, you may have developed a relentless drive to succeed as a way to prove your worth. While this might lead to external success, it often comes at the cost of inner peace and self-acceptance. Signs of perfectionism: setting impossibly high standards for yourself and others, feeling like a failure even when you achieve your goals, struggling with procrastination due to fear of not doing something perfectly, being overly critical of yourself for small mistakes. How it affects you. Perfectionism can lead to chronic stress, burnout, and feelings of inadequacy. It creates a constant pressure to perform and leaves little room for self-compassion or joy. Healing your inner child. To heal this wound, practice embracing imperfection as part of being human. Remind yourself that your worth is not tied to your achievements. Engage in activities purely for enjoyment rather than accomplishment, and seek therapy if perfectionism is deeply ingrained. Number 10. Chronic guilt and shame. Chronic guilt and shame are strong indicators that your inner child is hurting. These feelings often stem from childhood experiences where you were made to feel responsible for others' emotions or blamed for things beyond your control. For example, if a caregiver frequently said things like, "You're so difficult," or "You're the reason I'm unhappy," you may have internalized these messages as truths about yourself. Signs of chronic guilt and shame. Apologizing excessively, even when it's unnecessary. Feeling responsible for others' happiness or well-being. Avoiding self-care because it feels selfish. Experiencing deep shame about aspects of yourself, e.g., appearance, personality. How it affects you. These feelings can lead to low self-worth and difficulty advocating for yourself. Chronic guilt may cause you to overextend yourself for others at the expense of your own needs, while shame can make you hide parts of yourself out of fear of rejection. Start by challenging the beliefs that fuel guilt and shame. Remind yourself that it's not your responsibility to fix others' problems or emotions. Practice self-compassion by treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe,